You are listening to the Enormocast.
One would think that a dirtbag like Alex Honnold would sit back and let that sweet, sweet free solo money wash over him, like the sweat washed over your armpits watching him paddle up the free blast sans rope. Didn't look exactly solid, did it? But he ain't partying with DiCaprio quite yet. Instead, he's doubling, tripling, quadrupling down on the Honnold Foundation, his nonprofit dedicated to creating equity through solar projects around the globe. And now Black Diamond is giving you a swank opportunity to get on board with the Honnold signature chalk bag and solution harness. What's the chalk bag like? Well, I've got one. It holds chalk. Sits there for when you're sweaty. No dumb pockets or zippers or anything. And the solution harness, well, Alex Honnold doesn't always climb in a harness, but when he does, it's a solution. But most importantly, the Honnold Foundation gets a kickback from BD every time you buy a Honnold signature product. So check them out at blackdiamondequipment.com or your favorite local shop. And if you don't want commerce getting in the way of your giving, donate directly at honnoldfoundation.com and keep that ratty old harness that scares your partners.
Are you stuck in the partner zone, where that person you climb with is blithely unaware of your electric longing that's telegraphing through that stiff gym rope? Does she think of you as just another dude she schools in the bouldering cave? Does he tell his friends you're just like one of the guys? Well, break out of the partner zone and let that person know that your rock is in a hard place with a special gift from PeterWGilroy.com. Because if you thought making sure her chalk bag was always full, or buying him a set of cams for his half birthday would bring out the passion, you're wrong. Do it the right way and go to PeterWGilroy.com for rock-inspired jewelry and accessories that say, to me, you're more than just a solid belay, baby. And of course, remember to enter Enormo at checkout for a discount.
We gotta get Listen, where are you playing in town? Are you playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
the
big place, that side of town. That's a big place. You sold it out.
20,000 seats. We really should.
Look, you better get up there before you panic. Those pens are loose. You're very good. I have really enjoyed time with you. We'll make it. I don't think so. But we shall continue with style. Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime for climbing.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva. And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the Enormocast.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the Enormocast. This is your host, Chris Cluse. It is about 10 o'clock on November 8th, and this is episode 163 of the Enormocast, a conversation with climber and wellness coach Blake Cason, which means that, we're a little off-piste on this one, which I want to do whenever I can because usually I learn something and hopefully you guys learn something. So when I had an opportunity to talk to Blake, I jumped at the chance. I'm also always interested or trying to have more women's voices on this thing because like many climbing facets, it's definitely pretty dude heavy. So that's also nice. Today, Blake is a woman. Chris's and Blake's. We got names that go both ways. Anyhow, when I sat down to edit this one, I wasn't really sure what I had because I get really involved in this conversation, which is, code for I talk too much. But we got really into talking about, how she could sort of hypothetically help me with my climbing progress. And when I left the RV and walked across the dark parking lot, I was kind of messed up in a good way, and I didn't know what we had. So once I edited it, I was interested to hear it after a little bit of time had passed. And I don't know, I think we got something really good. At least it helped me. So hopefully if you can put yourself in my shoes, which many of you probably can, or think about your own needs and wants and kind of obstacles to achieving your climbing goals, maybe this will help you too. And it's downright funny at times because I'm such a fucking curmudgeon that I think she, was about to throw in the towel talking to me because I was just like like wall of crustiness against her most effective techniques. But I tell you what, if Blake can help a guy that's been climbing 30 years break some of his most destructive but heartfelt beliefs, then she can help anybody, I would think. So I got my free consult here on the Enormocast by talking to her for an hour, but you can get one too at BlakeCasonCoaches.com, which is her business website, Pivot Integrative Wellness, and you can get a free consult from her to see if she can set you straight, get you sorted out to moving towards your climbing goals or any other goals for that matter. Actually, climbing is only a very small part of her business. Also, she's going to be speaking at the Momentum Mill Creek in Salt Lake City on November 18th. She wanted me to mention that if any Salt Lake listeners want to check her out. She's doing a clinic there, and then she's going to be doing some clinics in early December as well. So go to BlakeCasonCoaches.com, the Pivot Integrative Wellness website, and check it out if you like what you hear today. Maybe she can help you out. Okay, in my own business, I want to remind you that the Enormocast is going to be attending and presenting at the Michigan Ice Fest. Yeah, that's right, going to the Michigan Ice Fest. These ice festivals keep inviting me to come up and talk about things other than ice climbing, but we'll see what we can do. We're probably going to do an interview, some local or somebody else, but come check it out. It is February 13th to the 17th. You can find out everything you need to know at MichiganIcefest.com. And everybody I've talked to about this thing telling me how hardcore it is. Like, these guys are hardcore. Upper Peninsula Michigan ice climbers. You got to be hardcore to deal with that. Anyway, so if you guys are in the Midwest and looking for something to do in the middle of fucking February, you want to be colder than you already are, then check out the Michigan Ice Fest. I'll see you there. So yeah, let's get to this conversation with Blake Cason, setting this old guy straight. Hey folks, have you fiends seen the Don Waller Free Solo yet? Well, spoiler alert, the one thing all the principal climbers in those amazing films have in common besides the bedhead and spectacular abs are TC pros from Sportiva. That's right, those fellas trusted their dreams to the face and crack shoe designed by Caldwell himself to tackle the big stone all day, every day. And Tommy wants your dreams to come true too. So if you want to stick to rock like your elbows stick to the table at Golden Corral, and you want your toes to luxuriate inside cracks like it's their home.
That's your home! Are you too good for your home?
Then check out the TC Pros and all of Sportiva's great shoes at Sportiva.com or your favorite local shop. And yeah, TC stands for Tommy Caldwell. Am I the only one that took a while to figure that out? What do you call yourself? You said a wellness coach?
A wellness coach,
okay.
yeah. Yeah, wellness and life coaching, but I call myself a wellness coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is your life?
Yes.
Yeah,
this is my life.
And what's the name of your business? I forget.
Pivot Integrative Wellness.
Okay,
yeah.
Like I said,
Pivot,
I looked around the website and stuff, but it was a while back, actually, when I first...
Sure.
We
first
talking.
Connected, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, thanks for climbing with us today.
Yeah, that was awesome. So. That was a blast.
Okay, good. We started talking about doing this interview just as a little background. We're in Indian Creek, actually. We're in Blake's RV in Indian Creek, and we started talking about doing this interview, and then there was this opportunity to meet in Indian Creek, and then I was like, haha, I'm going to trick you into climbing with me and Miles and my partner Steph, because we need a third. I'm like, can you be our third? And thanks. And you were very open to it.
Yeah.
And
it was a blast, and he's
good.
Like casual.
Yeah, it's pretty
as far
chill.
As kids go.
Sometimes, but it is like a day of like a little bit more craziness than normal. So I understand when I ask people to do it that it's asking a bit, because you do have to like take a step back from your personal goals a tiny bit, because they don't always fit. Although with the third person, we try to make sure that their climbing is guiding what we're doing that day.
Sure, yeah.
Because we're going to be passing baby and you can't really concentrate on what you're
Yeah.
trying to do. So, but thank you.
Yeah.
And thanks for meeting up. And, we got in touch, or you got in touch with me. And I always like, or a lot of times I like when there's this kind of, you throw this angle at me that's not just me interviewing a professional climber or kind of the sort of bread and butter of these type of shows, and my show in particular.
Yeah.
So that's what got me interested. So tell me what made you think I got to pitch this and check out the show.
Yeah.
Or come on the show.
So it was a pretty, I guess, kind of a personal experience of listening to it and being, and one, knowing for myself that sometimes I listen to a podcast with professional, I'm a climber, so professional climbers where they're talking about the incredible things that they're doing. And it can be easy for me to look at that and be like, wow, they're so special. Like they're the demigods.
Right.
And they're able to do it because they're sponsored, because they are some sort of, what they're made of is somehow different and special and better than me. And from my work, I know that that's an easy thing for a lot of other people to think about themselves in general. And also with climbers of like, wow, I wish I could do that, but I have a full-time job or I have kids or whatever. To me, the fact that we can have responsibilities and still do epic shit is like totally real to my life, personally and then professionally. And so listening to a podcast where people are talking about the epic things that they're doing, my thought was like, man, I wonder if people also know that they can do that stuff.
Right.
And it's not far-fetched, and it's not, that these people aren't demigods, that they're have probably some particular ways of approaching climbing in their lives that give that space for bigger things.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a few years now, and so I'm talking to all these people.
Yeah.
And the one thing that like fits into that is that, and it's kind of weird, but it's like every person who I've talked to has had a different approach to it and had a different set of circumstances. And so the idea that there's not this like you're born with it formula or anything kind of fits into that, where I'm just like, well, I'm not that different from that guy, and I'm not that different from this woman. But at the same time, I realize sometimes, I joke off the mic, but I'm going to do it on the mic now, is that because I know like a lot of times hammering these professional climber interviews, they're not always my best. I'm always just like, you grew up climbing in a climbing gym, and now you're a really good climber. You're like, wow, like that.
What a stretch.
I know, it's like you've been climbing since you were 5, and like now you're a great climber. Like, give me something more. Like, what else is going on in your life? And I don't know if I've joked about this on here before, but I make a joke all the time that if someone came in here and was like, I've been climbing the climbing gym, I've been on the climbing team since I was like 6, and I'm like 22 now, and I still haven't sent 510.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be like, okay, let's talk. Like, here's a story. Like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like,
what the hell is wrong with you?
and why?
What's your secret?
Right, and why are you still climbing? And why is because there would be some like incredible story there. Like, you still love climbing, and you're like,
and really, that's like there's some juice in that of like that somebody would still be inspired by something, even if they weren't progressing, even if they weren't whatever. They're just like, I don't care, I like climbing jugs.
Right, exactly.
Whatever, get off my case.
Become a speed climber.
Anyway. Exactly.
So, you're saying that you're having these thoughts like, I could tell people, or I can help people, or I want people to know this. So what's your, then where do your thoughts go? Like, what are you talking about when you're saying that?
Yeah.
Do you have, can we get into some of your secrets? This is a part of what you do for a living. It's not specific to climbing though, is it?
No, it's not specific to climbing. My coaching, I'm working with more and more climbers now. That's been super exciting because it's so close to my heart, climbing, and I understand climbing and climbers, obviously, having invested, countless hours now and months and days and years. But so my approach, how I call it, is like I'm a habit, behavior, and lifestyle coach. And to me, those are the really significant components of what we're talking about, of like that why Sam Elias or somebody isn't special for what he's accomplished in some ways. Because what he has done I don't know, this is just, hypothetical, what a crushing climber has done in some way is managed their behavior and their lifestyle to make enough space, so make enough time and energy to pursue their sport in a big way. And so those are in some of the biggest components of this, what to me is essentially an equation. Like our lifestyle is an equation. You like add, subtract, multiply, and hopefully find balance. But a lot of people, we can get kind of disempowered about that stuff, and suddenly we're just, I don't know, this is fine, and we're not living to our fullest potential in whatever way, whether it's climbing or whatever we're psyched on. As a wellness coach, those are the elements that I focus on.
What were they again?
Habit, behavior, and lifestyle. Because our lifestyle is composed of behaviors, and most of our behaviors are composed of a lot of habits. So if we can understand those things, those are the components that we have a lot of control over in managing our time and our energy. Because if we have a habit that's draining our time or a habit that's draining our energy, that's when, like, so many of my clients come to me, like, I feel like hot garbage at the end of my workday. How am I supposed to live my life if all of my functioning hours are to this office? So a big component of that is managing energy and managing time.
So when you say managing energy, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we all have things that energize us and drain us. For me, so I'll give an example. For me, climbing overall energizes me, but specifically an early morning multi-pitch adventure energizes me. Something that drains me, something that drains my energy is social media.
I was about to, like 2 minutes ago, I was about to say, do you just basically tell everyone to get the fuck off social media and everything else is then it's all easy.
They show up to my sessions and I'm like,
you just whip their phone against the wall.
I collect their payment. I'm like, get the fuck off of your phone.
Just stomp on it.
I swear. So I do a lot of group stuff. I do a lot of like
Isn't it terrible?
One-on-one stuff. Every time I sit down with somebody, phones come up.
Right.
Because billions of dollars have been put into those phones stealing your attention.
I know.
It's insane.
I know.
And we're all just strung along.
It is. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And like, I justify it. I'm like, well, it's part of the, my business, and I like promote the Enormocast, and that's like 10% of the time I spend on social media. It's total
it's a vortex.
Horseshit. Yeah.
It's a vortex.
Yeah.
So something that I found, because I'm.
So anyway, we got off on a tangent. So the thing you said energizes you was the climbing, that certain time and style, and then the thing that sucks your energy from your soul and like uses it to wash like dirty cars is the
social media.
Social media.
Yeah.
So
those are examples, but it can also be like it's a habit,
it's a
right?
Drug.
Exactly. So. But another example of something that can be really draining of energy would be just like worry. Worry seriously saps your energy. I spent a huge amount of time in my adult life as a worrier, so I know. But things that could energize you would be like taking a minute of just being quiet. That can be super energizing. But so energy management is about understanding the things that drain your energy and the things that bolster it. And so how to add more of the things that increase your energy and on like a physical, mental, emotional way. And then either cutting out, reducing, or changing your perspective on the things that drain your energy. Because there are some things that drain your energy that you can't get rid of, like work. For exactly. Like work sometimes can be really draining, and so much of that often is our perspective of it. If we're going in like with the perspective, with the belief that like I'm not contributing to anything, or I don't like these people, or whatever it is, like those perspectives can be actually what's draining your energy as opposed to the work itself. So within all of this, the big overarching component is awareness. We can't tackle any of this stuff unless we're aware of the soup we're swimming in, of like what's going on. And so something like the beliefs that you have about what's draining your energy, or like one of my examples, like kind of tongue in cheek, of like, you can't get rid of your in-laws. So they might drain your energy, can't get rid of them.
Right.
So how can you change your relationship to them, to that, so that it's not terrible, and maybe is even healthy? Yeah.
So when you're working with climbers, are you drawing from the climbing community because that's your community, or are these people specifically talking to you about, I need to be a better climber and I want you to help me with that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or is it, more that we're going to clean up all this business and then that's going to just naturally free up time for this energizing thing that you love to do?
Yeah. It depends. I think most of the climbers that I've worked with have come to me for overall lifestyle stuff. And they're like, there's this thing that I love and I want to do more of it and I want to feel better about it. I want to be able to train. I want to stop sitting on my hands about this thing that I want to do. And so they're coming to me for like overall support but they have this motivating thing, which is huge. Like that's another component of this, is like being aware of what motivates you and what inspires you, because those are powerful. Like as far as energizers, those are some of the most energizing things we can have, are chasing what inspires us, because that's in alignment with our values and to me, the things that inspire us, that's our soul speaking up.
Right.
And we have to honor that. So I think people are coming to me like, I want to do this thing, but I don't know how to make it fit. Like, how do I have shit to do and still do like awesome shit? Because that's what it can feel like. It's like, well, I have kids, or I have a full-time job, or whatever it is, or like, I'm not living in a van, so how can I climb more? And
my tendency is to be that sort of, it's sort of like a stoicism in a sense of just like, yeah, but I do have to do these things. Yeah. And so, I'd love it all to work out, but too bad. And I'll just keep doing these things or whatever it happens to be. This idea that,
like, still doing your responsibilities when you say doing these things?
Yeah, or like, I only have this many hours in the day and they're taken up. And so, oh, well, next year I'll get around to that or something like that. So I'm trying to kind of like, you're talking about all this stuff and I'm trying to think about it in my own life already. Sure. And, but when you're talking about climbers and we get into this energy thing, this habit thing, this behavior thing, have you ever really looked at specifically even within climbing, or have you heard from people and sort of started digging around like, well, what is it you do when you go to the gym, or what is it you do when you're climbing, and like actually started to kind of flit about inside of that realm
in terms of
these energies and habits and behaviors and things like that?
I guess not with clients, definitely in my own life. And that's, like we are sometimes the best laboratory for these sort of things. To me, a big part of it is that if we're able to build the kind of self-awareness about why am I doing this, and why am I doing this, or why am I not doing this? Is it working? Is it not working? That we can apply that to anything. So something like when I go to train, it doesn't seem to be producing outcomes. Like I'm not getting stronger. Like I'm tired when I go train. Like what? Like what's going on? In some ways that's specific to climbing, but we can also just explore it of like, well, what are the beliefs there? What do you believe about yourself or about training that might be getting in the way? And of course that's a process of unpacking, slower or more rapid depending on the person. But it could be something like the belief that the training won't work, so it doesn't matter. Or the belief that you can't obtain the objective, or I should be doing something else. Like you could be shoulding on yourself.
Or trading is for 14-year-old
Exactly.
boys that don't have any responsibilities.
Right.
And,
So,
Yeah,
exactly.
No. Well, it's coincidental that we're going to do this, and we're talking about this. I haven't talked about this at all, but I've been talking to Chris Hampton about doing one of his power company training. Yeah. We're going to do it.
Yeah.
We haven't started yet,
yeah.
but we're going to, he's going to put old man Chris Calouse into his training program, and we're going to see what happens, because I've never trained.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I mean, I can tell you that I've spent maybe a total of 45 minutes of my life on a hangboard.
Yeah.
I built this training wall in my backyard and basically used it 6 times. So, I thought, okay, I'll put this thing in my yard and that'll force me to use it. And basically I avert my eyes from it whenever I'm in the backyard.
Because you have a belief about it.
Yeah, totally. And so this is good, because I'm going to enter this thing pretty soon, and I have 47-year-old dude beliefs about how you get to be a better climber, which is just by climbing.
Yes.
And trying hard.
Yeah. Yes.
And then it magically happens. And again, training in a gym is for children or teenagers.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. So can we talk about that?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
No, let's do it. Let's get me ready.
Yeah. Okay. So with something like that, for one, valuable, powerful, effective, that you have an understanding of those beliefs. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are more there. So have fun with those later.
Okay,
yeah. One way to unpack those is we'll try 2 different techniques.
Okay.
So
that's getting good. Okay.
Yeah.
This is what I was digging for.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, free. I want free. This is all free. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna have to pay for this.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
So we'll try one technique that I think is a pretty fun one. It's called the 5 layers of why.
Okay.
And it's exactly that. So, so one of the beliefs you had was would you say the only way to get good at climbing is by just climbing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So why is
or that's far and away
that's the
most effective way. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Training is a waste of time.
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you believe that?
Well, let's go back. You changed it. I don't think it's necessarily a waste of everyone's time. For some reason, I always think that if I have some time, I'm just going to go climbing because I enjoy that. Yeah. And so in a sense, it's it replaces my climbing time with something that I don't like, and therefore it's a waste of my time. Right. Right. So we have the question of short-term gains versus long-term gains. Yeah. And kind of that type 1 fun versus type 2 fun. And then I go back to that person you, I think, mentioned earlier that's just well, if you live in your van and you climb all the time, then of course you can do it. Right. Then you can go train because you're so tired of actually climbing. Anyway. Yeah. Does that, am I going too far with these? No, that makes sense. Okay, and understanding for you more particularly, but understanding we'll probably use this word again later, but the anatomy of that belief of what has supported that belief, how instilled is that belief? I guess the belief is really that I don't have time to train because I want to use that time to just go climbing. To go climbing. Yeah. Because you enjoy that more. Yes, and I have such less amount of time for that than I used to. It feels really precious. Okay, so now, why do I believe that? Why do you believe that time is too precious to train? Because I'm tired. Okay. Okay. No, because I don't know. I just feel I don't know. Okay. So I don't have an answer for you. Is that bad in this exercise? Well, that's the end of the exercise. No, I'm just kidding. So with 5 layers of why, what we're doing is, it's hard. We kind of got off on tangents, but what we're doing is kind of peeling back the layers of start over. The heart of the belief. Can we start over? Sure. And I'll be more concise. That's okay. I'm the Enormocast. What's the word for? What's the noun?
I'm running this show. I can do what I want.
I don't know.
Brevity.
Brevity is not my forte. So try again.
Okay.
Sorry.
So the belief is. What would you say the belief is? I'll let you say the belief.
The belief is that I don't have time to train.
Why do you feel like you don't have time to train?
I mean, the day goes by and I feel like I have every minute filled with either responsibilities to my family, to work, and then the time that I don't have those things, I'd rather just go do pitches at the crag.
So your ultimate goal is to do more climbing. How could training apply to doing more?
Well, if I'm more fit and like avoiding injury, then I would probably be able to climb more than if I get injured. And also, I mean, I do have these climbing goals.
Yeah.
And so I think that perhaps the idea behind training is to maintain fitness to still achieve these goals.
Yeah.
And specifically to maintain fitness as I'm getting older to still achieve goals that I have in climbing. You know, I inexorably slide into the grave.
Yeah. Yeah, just kidding. Okay. So why is maintaining fitness and avoiding injury important, especially important to you?
Again, to continue to achieve goals that I have in climbing.
Mm-hmm. So why are those goals important to you?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean, it's sort of what I've based my life around is goal-oriented climbing.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, trundling around, just going out and climbing whatever has not ever been that big of a motivator. Yeah. And I think is for a lot of people, and I'm not going to diminish that. But for me, I always feel like I'm motivated by trying to achieve something a little better than what I'm doing at any given moment.
Why is that motivating to you?
Just was born that way. I don't know.
Yeah.
It just is.
Within the framework of the belief that you have, time is too precious to train, but training prevents injury and it builds fitness so that you can obtain goals that are important to you on a values level. At the end of that, where does that belief that time is too precious for training, where does that belief lie now? Does it still hold water, do you feel?
Well, I think, I've been trying to change that now for a while. And, I have it's like the Dionysus thing. It's like there's the two sides of my brain.
Yeah.
Because part of me knows that, of course, training would help. But when I joked earlier that I'm just too tired, and that's when it comes down, it's like at the end of the day, you're just like, well, I could go to the gym, or I could stay home, or I could stay home, get some more work done, or I could stay home and veg. Yeah. Because I don't hardly ever do that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so those are the kind of like, that's like the real like rubber hits the road struggle.
Yeah.
For what we need to do.
Mm-hmm. And you in some ways have a leg up because you have, as a goal-oriented climber, those can be really inspiring to do some of the things that you're like not that excited about, but you're excited about the where it moves you to. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the interesting thing with working with climbers is that so many of us as climbers are fairly goal-oriented. Like I'm finishing up a training cycle right now, and I don't like training either, but I really like feeling more prepared for what I'm trying to do in a few weeks. So we have these things that can kind of pull us through some of the lulls because they inspire us. Mm-hmm. And if we kind of keep our rudders pointed at the things that inspire us, oftentimes the things that might feel like a slog can feel really exciting. Like, oh, I'm feeling stronger. I'm feeling better at this thing. I feel more confident in this, whatever it is, with the outcome in mind.
Right.
For some people that works. But that's the thing about kind of building self-awareness is that you have to know, is that what you're like? Are you chasing a goal? Are you chasing just getting stronger? And especially when we're up against things that we don't like training at the gym. If you don't like it, it's like, well, we can keep that belief at the cost of maybe less fitness and more injury, if that's what you're finding, or the value of more fitness and less injury can trump the belief that training is bullshit or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And it really, it's just like, in some ways, kind of you get to chalk it up to, like, it can be almost as simple as, okay, the belief is training is bullshit. Is that belief working for you?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
Is it has.
Yeah.
And that really, like, it really does come down to that, I think, is a big part of my thing, because it has worked.
You have a ton of data that's like, this is working.
It's like I've achieved all these goals that I had, and it's almost like the reason I'm thinking about it harder now is because I'm older.
Exactly.
And because I see, it's not even here yet, but I sort of see this future of like, well, look, your charm is wearing off, so to speak.
Yeah.
And the charm being that, I just climbed so much and I built a really good base as a younger climber for this type of thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
Which wasn't actually that necessarily fitness oriented.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of big roots, trad climbing. I mean, fitness is a part of it, but it's not like trying to be a boulder or something like that. So that's actually a big part of the problem, I think, is that it worked for so long.
Yeah, it's a long-held
belief.
And
I still get like a little whiff of it now and again to keep me alive.
Yeah.
But I do see that literally, I kind of foresee this bit of this future. Or non-literally, the writing on the wall, whatever the phrase you want to use is like, maybe it's time to sort of like put in a basis to at least maintain into my 50s, which are just around the corner.
So we with beliefs, when we take them through, say, like the 5 layers of why or whatever, at the end we might be like, cool, I understand where that's rooted and why, and I'm gonna keep it. Great. Because it might be
dogs
worth it.
are better than cats. They just are.
Done and done. And
I don't believe that, by the
way. Because that's our prerogative. We get to decide. A limiting belief, or a belief in general, whether you consider it limiting or whatever, it could not be working that great, but you can still keep it.
Right.
You can do whatever you want. It's your life. To me personally, and when I work with clients, it's really just about like kind of laying the cards out on the table and like, so let's see, like you feel like you don't have time for it, but it could prevent injury, but you like would rather, you have more fun going out and getting pitches. Like, I don't know, what do you think? Because it could be way more worth it to you to just go out and get pitches and have fun. And, injuries come and go, whatever. But that goes kind of back to energizers and drains. Like, if the power that it has to energize you is worth the whatever else the belief does, cool. It's your rodeo. It's we all get to choose what we do with understanding our habits and behavior.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we're like, this is all hypothetical because I don't think I'm that confused about what is happening, and I'm also already making steps towards what I want to do, because I understand it. And part of the idea of using Chris was realizing that you sitting in your house by yourself, it hasn't worked for 47 years. I nail up the frickin' hangboard. It sits there. I look at it every night from my bed. There it is, glowing in the dark.
Collecting dust. Yeah. Definitely not chalk.
Right. So that's kind of my an awareness to say, look, and that's what guys like Chris are for. And in some ways what you're doing is to be, to be a bit of a reality check and also a motivator in itself, because like, I respect Chris a lot. He's a friend of mine. And so, at the end of the day, I don't want to email him or answer his email and say, yeah, no, I didn't do any of the things you told me I was supposed to do because I'm a slug and I suck. I want to like email and be like, yeah, it was awesome.
Crushed
Thank you.
it.
Yeah. So again, like the hypothetical, I think I'm not quite, like I said, as confused or as ready to be, that I need this, like, in this particular situation.
Sure.
We want to delve into all sorts of other
crap
in my life, but let's not, because this is a climbing podcast.
No, but you bring up another super powerful component in this, and community is a big in that, especially what are called weak ties. So I don't know how close you are with Chris Hampton, but when we have somebody in our lives that's like not a super close friend, but somebody that there's like a little bit of social pressure, that can be really motivating to get stuff done.
Yeah.
So
I'm counting on it.
Exactly. So having that weak tie of being like, well, I'm not going to send him an email that I like totally biffed on his plan is wildly powerful for people. So in that way of like weak ties, but also having a community that's like, oh, I guess this isn't so bad. They're doing it too.
Well, that's the other thing is I have a gym in our town. It's brand new. Never had a gym before.
Oh, nice.
And so these are all things in my head. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go into the gym. Everybody's in there for the same reason. Well, they have fun too, but there's also training facilities within the gym, the various walls. Chris is going to be on my case. I have a ton of respect for Chris. So these things are all like kind of I'm trying to make them sort of fall into place.
Totally. And those are the things that can kind of like nudge us along, as opposed to sliding into like, oh, this is a slog. This like this sucks. And in some ways when we get into like, oh, this is a slog, we're kind of getting in our own heads about things and kind of circling the drain around like, I don't like this. As opposed to when we're with other people, it's a fair bit harder to get in our own head and get in our own way about that sort of thing.
So do you work with people in terms of, do you ever reach out to like spouses or, because I was just trying, when you say community, as this podcast, because we use that word all the time to refer to the climbing community, but part of, for me to be successful in this is that Steph, talked to her about this, like, has to sort of be on board, at least during this training cycle, that time I need to, have this time. And if you're getting a lot of that negative feedback that, well, you can't do that, you need to do this right now, or I need you here for this, or it can be, I mean, I think that would start to feel like an insurmountable thing for a lot of people.
What exactly? Like having to get their partner on board?
The big problem with any of these lifestyle changes for people in my position, and I think probably with a ton of people you work with, is again, it comes back to like, well, where do I get this time? Because I get home from work and then it's time to make dinner and the kids and the blah, 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 and the thing. And like, and that's what, the whole tired thing was that joke of like, okay, now it's 9:00 and you're gassed and there's the hangboard. It's like 9:00. It's dark out. Like, I'm not down with this. Then you throw in, if there's some, pressure from a spouse to like, you're going where? Well, no, you're doing this tonight and I'm supposed to do this and blah, 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 blah. So it seems like you would.
I haven't done a couple session yet, but I have, my clients have partners and whatnot. So often with that, it's just like, sometimes it's shifting the perspective that y'all are a team, you're a team for yourselves as individuals and for yourself as in the partnership. And that's something that you have the pleasure of navigating within that team, which is going to take some work. And I think that's one of the reasons why it can be easily avoided, is that sometimes those conversations are really complex and complicated and can get a little entrenched. But the fact is that if this is something that's really inspiring and motivating to you, that's really powerful. And to get to have that conversation with your spouse around like, okay, how can we find the space for this to work? And how can I support you in the things that really inspire you so that we can live lives that are lit up, that are energized. Right.
So the argument is that our lives together are going to be better if we can just carve out this time, because I'm going to be I mean, and I think it, again, going back to climbing, and I know you do a much broader thing than that, but everybody I know says that, oh, I'm just a way better, everyone I know who climbs is like, I'm just a way happier and better person if I'm climbing.
Yeah.
A bit. I have friends who climb and they have kids and their wives, in the case of the men that I climb with, if their wives don't climb, they have told me, like, you have to take him climbing because he's like annoying the shit out of me right now.
Yeah. And
he hasn't climbed and he's just like,
yeah.
She's telling him, go climbing. He's like, no, I got all this stuff to do.
Yeah.
And so
yeah,
I think there is an argument in there about that, of being like, well, look, if I can just get a little bit of time here, it's going to go a long way for me to be happier, healthier.
This is self-care.
Right.
Yeah, because that's huge. It's really easy as parents or partners to be like, no, I can't go take care of myself because there's important pressing things. Mm-hmm. But for me, a really powerful quote is, and you can apply this to anything, but you won't do a good job if your job is all you do. You won't be a good parent if all you do is parent. You won't be a good friend if all you do is go like output to your friends. Like, we have to take care of ourselves. And so when you're talking about these guy friends of yours, like, climbing to them is cathartic. It's self-care. It's energizing. And those things reverberate in the rest of their lives. Right. Like full stop. Easy. So getting to, as a team with your partner, if that's what we're talking about, like with a spouse, with whoever you're kind of sharing your life with, of like, this lights me up. So how can I, take accountability? How can I manage my time better and my energy better so that I have enough energy to do this thing? And how can we as a team figure out how to make it fit in, because, we have this equation of our lifestyle. We have like some immovable parts and some movable parts. So how can we honor what's immovable and how can we get creative with what's movable so that at the end of the day, like, homegirl can go pursue her goals and you can go pursue yours in whatever way that works for both of you. But it takes being honest with yourselves, honest in the relationship.
Well, yeah, because I was just thinking that, well, it could like go the other direction to where, if you're, I have actually plenty of friends as well who climb, and I'm just like, don't you think you should maybe like stay home and hang out with your kids this weekend? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, so, and they're like, no, this is what motivates me and lights me up and everything else. And so the honesty thing, I think, fits into that, because it certainly could be the case that, everybody outside looking in is like, bro, you do have these other things that you need to do.
Little dude needs a dad, too.
Right. Yeah, and I think climbers or anyone who has these like passion pursuits can kind of lose sight of that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a component of climbing that I struggle with a lot, is that there is an innate selfishness about it. So even, like when we first sat down, we were talking about climbing in a group of 3, and a big part of me was like, hell yeah, I want to support you two getting out. Like, I would love for it not to be my rodeo of like, what do I want to climb? I want to send this, like, okay, I'm going to red point it. Like, no, that's fun sometimes, but it was also a really beautiful alternative experience to be like, no, we're just out there as a team. We're hanging out. We're trying to get pitches.
You got to send something today, though.
Yeah, I did. That was rad. It was cool to go back to that. Definitely. Coin crack. The greasy start. Damn. Yeah, but climbing has, I think, an inherent selfishness, and maybe that's something for us all to keep in check, that like we can pursue our goals that light us up, and but we're also part of our small community at home, and our small, medium, large communities that we also have to consider other people.
Yeah, when I had this episode this year, we recorded like little sound bits on El Cap when I went to climb El Cap, and that, that was like a big eye-opening thing for me in a lot of ways. But one of them was, this idea that I was going to go out to to climb an El Capitan the first time in a decade.
Yeah.
And then I was also going to like, I had not planned to free the route, but I was going to, the whole plan was like, oh, I'll go up there and climb as best I can, and just to kind of see, like, what if I kept this as a goal and I would come back maybe next year or something.
Yeah.
And what happened essentially is what we're talking about, in that I realized if I was going to be ever, or the time that it would take me to do something like this, and me as a, to go and be in Yosemite for weeks on end, because at least for me, that's what it would take to be climbing on the granite, to try it a bunch. It just doesn't fit into my lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's just no way even that trip that was 14 days was like, I wanted to be back in Carbondale hanging out with my kid. And so it's like a moment of like, whoa. Have your goals. Yeah. But, they do need to fit into the equation,
of your life, into your equation.
Right. And that one doesn't fit into my equation.
Yeah. And that, and in some ways that can be kind of like, damn, when we realize that something, essentially that goal, you could think about it, is not in alignment with your values.
Right.
Your value to be home more, your value to whatever it is, like, it's not in alignment with your values. So, all right, you can kind of like scrap that one. So finding other goals that are in alignment with your equation, with your values, and those are the kind of, and they inspire you. Alignment, it like fits in your life, align with your values, and it inspires you. There is so much more momentum behind a goal like that than the one of like, well, I don't know, I climbed 13A, so now I guess I'm should climb a 13B or whatever. Like, I should do something.
Right.
There's not a lot of heart behind that.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of, especially with climbers, what I get to work with and talk to them about is the understanding that in some ways there's kind of, it's not black and white, but there's a little bit of a framework that we can use to look at our goals and our lifestyle, to be like, man, why does this feel like a slog? Well, it might not be in alignment with your values. It might not actually inspire you. It might be based on external pressures or whatever. And there's heaps and heaps of research that external pressure or external motivators don't last very long for most people. Some people, they last longer, but for most, when it's like, I should be doing something, there's not a lot going on in a
right.
goal
The
like
external motivators.
Yeah.
To sort of come back to this social media thing, like that has become this really interesting, weird external motivator of like presenting myself in a certain way. And also, I just talked to Kathy Carlo about this big failure that she was like afraid to share because it didn't present her, her idea of who she was didn't fit with this for a while, so to speak. Yeah. But anyway,
for sure. That's was something that I think I struggled with for a long time in climbing was, us as a society, our struggle to talk about failing. And so me as a climber, I was like, I couldn't really understand that people tried and failed in the pursuit of something they were interested in. So to me, it was like, I only climbed so that I could feel success, because success is the lovely part. Success is what people get excited about. Right. Success is like what you get a pat on the back about. And it took me a while to understand that I'm seeing the highlight reel of climbers or of life, which is so misleading, when in fact to do big things that inspire you, things that scare you, like, you're gonna fail. And that, once I started, I realized that, and then started really embracing that, it totally changed, one, my perspective of climbing. That was kind of where it started. And then I've since been able to take that into my private practice of like, well, I don't know, we'll see if this works. And just into my life in general of letting go of that fear of failure, because it can be really hard to talk about and can kind of fly in the face of our perspective of ourselves. But it's how we do rad things that are, bigger than we can imagine, is by a lot of failing.
I would say like, oh, I totally know that.
Yeah.
Like I've lived it. But after El Cap, I mean, we felt kind of shitty about it, and like, then I spiraled into like, well, it's over. Yeah. Just might as well just like hang it up and start, smoking cigarettes, drinking beer, and like sitting on my my porch or whatever. Yeah. But just recently, I had this phone issue where I jumped in a pool with my phone.
A phone issue. Yeah, just totally malfunctioned.
Well, I just jumped in a pool with Miles, and I hadn't backed it up. My photos from that were on there, and I got them. No, I got them back.
Nice.
Just recently, I like rebuilt the phone essentially, and then I saw the pictures just like 2 weeks ago that I had taken, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. We climbed El Cap. We not only climbed El Cap, but like trying to free a route ground up on El Cap is sort of unheard of anymore. Yeah. And so I was like, fuck this. I shouldn't feel bad about like this thing. Like it still was totally cool. And right. We had a great time, actually. Yeah. I mean, the actual time on the wall was really fun. Yeah. So yeah, but it took like 4 months for me to like get over the fact that I had just gotten like pummeled. Because I was like a wall guy. Yeah. But that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can walk up to things with expectations, and then, man, those expectations can take up a lot of space. Take up a lot of space for you to actually enjoy the experience. Mm-hmm. And so now, 4 months later, you're like, damn, that was pretty rad. Mm-hmm. But the expectation got in the way before that.
So performance in climbing is a huge deal. And we've talked about it endlessly on the show. I did an episode early on about why climbing hard is important. It's a belief system that I have. And again, intellectually, I can understand that there's plenty of people who don't have that belief system. But it's mine. And I think, if you just look at the media, performance, whether it's training or whether just climbing well, climbing hard. If you go to the crag, most of the people there are like hoping they want to climb better than they did yesterday. And if you were to sort of give us a few pieces of advice about how we deal with the things that we're talking about, disappointment versus success, is there like, anything that you would just say like, look, here's a couple things to think about and to do, or to act out, or to arrange in your head. Yeah. When you're approaching performance as like the metric of whether you enjoyed yourself. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Because I think that's a big deal, about like going out and having a disappointing day. Like I was disappointed on El Cap. Yeah. And that was a disappointing, Jesus Christ, 7 days and 8 nights or some shit. I can't remember how long it took us. This is a long time.
Yeah. So your question is what to do with disappointment when we're pursuing performance in climbing? Yeah. Or like if we're not performing up to par. If you could kind
of like, set people straight a little bit about how to like, in your opinion, about maybe some mistakes, the fortune cookie version of like what it is you do.
I would offer the perspective that success isn't outcome based, that success is something that we obtain in any given moment, and it's based on if we're giving 100% of our efforts. If we showed up and gave everything that we could, which is going to change from day to day. But I feel like most of us, if we're honest, know how much we left on the table in in anything that we're doing. And I would say this could be a helpful perspective for some based on it, for anything. But that if we let go of outcomes, because outcomes can be trivial or they can like flit away, but that if we focus more on the being mindful in whatever we're pursuing and giving it 100% whenever we're there, then that is successful. And of course that's an offering of a perspective. I think a kind of on the side of that, if we're pursuing things that inspire us, we also can just be inspired by working on them. Like if we remember that we love that sequence, we can sometimes keep ourselves in check around like, yeah, but I fucked up the crux after it. Like, but you get to climb this amazing route that you wanted to climb. Like, you showed up to do this route because it inspired you. So being aware of like why we're doing what we're doing, as opposed to chasing the outcome, which once you get there is like, phew, done. Mm-hmm. Like it was a very single moment at the very end. Mm-hmm. Outcome, great, and then it's over. As opposed to each step towards what we're pursuing, because I think for a lot of climbers, it feels really good to try hard. At least for me. Why do you pursue performance? Does it feel good physically and mentally? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we find so much more in ourselves when we continue to expand our comfort zone and chase things that we think are...
It's cool because you keep talking about honesty.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really tricky thing. Mm-hmm. And I would imagine it's part of what you're doing is trying to align that with people. Mm-hmm. And trying to make them aware of where, and it's probably very tricky to dance around it with somebody where you're just like, really? Really? Like, that's really what you think? Do you know what I mean? Because it's a very tricky thing, and disappointment can come with all these sorts of excuses, and being honest with you, with your partners, with everybody is
I like
kind of like the fundamental part of like the whole operation.
Absolutely.
And maybe the hardest part.
Because we can totally live behind all these veils of like, well, this is the surface level, like training is for 14-year-old boys. Mm-hmm. But if we get radically honest, which is a phrase that I use a lot, if we get radically honest, and so radically honest where we're actually being like, what's up with this? As opposed to the first few surface layers, then to use that phrase again, like we know the soup we're swimming in. We know what's going on and we know what's getting in the way, because, something like dicking around on your phone for an hour and a half, that can be like, well, I was just, I just wanted to kind of turn my brain off for a little bit. But if we're radically honest with ourselves, we might find like, well, I wanted to see how my life was comparing to somebody else's or whatever. And so that's a totally different experience of why you're dicking around on your phone. But if we're not aware of why we're doing something, we can't take charge of it. And then it can feel like, and I think that's an important part of, understanding like habit, behavior, lifestyle, is it can feel like our habits and behavior have a ton of control over us until we start like sitting down with ourselves and being like, yeah, but why do I do that? And then in that understanding, we have a lot more control of like, okay, so I'm doing this so I can see how my life stacks up to other people. Do I want to do that? No.
Is that good for me?
Yeah.
No,
is that working? No. Great.
Right.
And then so then you have like the actual data.
Right.
Like you're not just like hypotheticals and anecdotal, whatever. Like you have the actual data of why you're doing this behavior that's draining your energy, and then you can do something else if you want. Or you can keep digging around on your phone, whatever you want to do.
And be miserable.
Yeah.
But afterwards, somebody just like punched you in the brain.
Yeah. That's a good way to describe it. What?
Okay. While you're talking about that, it really occurred to me, and I've told people this before, about one of the great things about climbing, at least the way we play the game, is that it basically like doesn't let you lie as much as the rest of your life can. It's very easy to say to yourself like, oh, I'm just like checking out what my friends are doing, when the truth is like I'm comparing my life to my friends and seeing if mine's cooler or not. It's very hard to say that you climbed something that you didn't climb. And with El Cap, that was the thing. As I was like halfway up that thing, like, you are full of shit, dude. You are not in the shape you thought you were. You didn't do anything this spring. You basically like got locked into all these things that had nothing to do with being fit. And now you're paying the damn price. And there's no amount of bullshit that's going to get you up this wall. It's no joke. Like, it's no fucking joke.
Yeah.
And there was points on the climb we talked about on the thing where it was like, we might have to go down.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
And that's like honesty, whether you like it or not. You know, you're not going to self-deceive your way to the anchor on top of that pitch.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So
I totally understand that.
You know what I mean? So and I've always like told people like that's one of the cool things about it.
Yeah.
Is that you got to be honest, especially I mean, I think if you're really talking about particularly about big route climbing, especially with a little bit of danger in it.
Yeah.
You better not fucking be bullshitting.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a nice feeling. And I've always felt like, and I think climbers I've talked to have talked about how that's part of what's great about it is that it's like.
The rock's not going to change for you.
Right.
It's not going to be like, oh, you're tired. Let's decrease the angle. No.
Right.
And I think that's something really inspiring to me about climbing is that if I have these lofty aspirations and like, wow, that looks so beautiful. Like that climb sounds so rad. I have to show up to it. I have to show up to where I'm like, I have to start where I am and respect like where I am when I start and get radically honest about the gap between where I am now and what I need, what I can imagine I need to pursue this thing. And hopefully, like all things being equal, do my damnedest to move from where I am to where I need to be, and there's no room for bullshit.
Right.
Because either I'm going to be able to do it physically, mentally, emotionally, or I'm not.
And it's wild because I mean, if you're listening to this, think about the times where you've gotten scared or where you find yourself in a position that you're super uncomfortable with. I mean, there's objective things like it started raining or whatever, but how many times is it just because you just bullshitted yourself about how good you were, how strong you were, and went up there anyway? Right. I mean, it's cool because you got to go for it, but it's just like kind of wild where I've definitely had so many times where I'm like, I'm really in over my head. And that's, in a lot of ways, that started before I ever started the climb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I was too busy chasing the romantic dream of like, I want to do this like epic shit, but I don't want to put the work into it.
Right.
I just want to talk and think about doing the epic shit. And that's definitely I'm talking to myself in this moment of with my goals in Yosemite in a week and a half from now. Like, it's scary for me. Like that place is scary.
Right.
Trad climbing on that kind of granite, it's spooky to me in a real way. And so I've been trying my damnedest to set myself up to show up to that. And I'm probably holding back too because it's scary. So we'll see. See. Like no bullshit. The rock's not going to get any more textured for my ass. It's just gonna be slimy like it always is.
So even the wellness coach is a work in progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's so important for me as I'm working with people that are trying to change their behavior, change their lifestyle. Is they have to know that I'm not doing this because my life is perfect. I'm not doing this because I have all this like totally on lockdown. I'm doing this because I have 12 years of experience, more now, working with people who are trying to change their behavior.
Right.
And so I've learned a ton around habit and lifestyle, nutrition. So I have this humongous toolkit. That's why they're sitting down with me, not because I'm perfect.
All right, folks, thanks for listening, and thanks to Blake for getting in touch, giving me the idea to have her on, and also for climbing with the Enormo family. We had a couple of nice days down there in Indian Creek, even trekking to a wall that I'd never been to before, which was nice. And it's also awesome to hook up with somebody a little bit randomly that is such a solid, safe, excellent climber as Blake is. So awesome. Thank you so much, Blake. And again, thanks for listening, everybody. And remember, if you like this podcast, you love it, or even if you don't like it, but you listen anyway, maybe you just put it on in the background where you're dipping artisan candles Who knows? But if you dig it, you can also help out by going to enormocast.com and clicking on the Help Out tab, or visiting the shop, or just hanging out on the website. Check out the website, enormocast.com. Help out, write a review, like the Facebook page, or even donate if you're into it. Cool. I don't know about where you are, but the outdoor climbing door, at least the wide open outdoor climbing door, kind of shut this month here in Colorado. It got a little chilly. I think the ice climbers are having a good old time already, though. I've been seeing stuff coming out of the Front Range. People are stoked. Wherever you are, I hope it's good enough to do something outdoors, whether it's climb ice, climb rock, or climb anything. Please remember to check your knot.
First off, I am 35 years old. I am divorced, and I live in a van down by the river.
The teachers told me that